Welcome to the Adventure Health and Wellness Podcast. Today, I'm going to follow up on the first episode of the podcast, which was solo, done on my own. I'm here in the studio with Jarod, just going to kind of shoot the breeze here today. We're coming out of 6 months of being on strike, let's call it, out of full-time work, what we usually do. As most of you know, we work on film and TV. Work on Law & Order, some other shows and movies. And so for the last 6 months, we've been doing other things. We've been running a secondhand store, doing the podcast, renting out this studio. And it's kind of strange because since I started Proactive back in 2017, 2018, there's been these weird lapses of work that I've had in between at different periods where I've had months off at a time for one reason or the other. You know, when I first started Proactive, I had it in my head that I was going to leave hospitality, which I did, and I was going to pursue Proactive full time. So for a few months, I was able to do that before I ran out of money. I had to go back to work. I wound up coming back into film and TV, and then COVID hit. So I had more time off. And we got back into full-time work after COVID, and then the writer's strike happened and the actor's strike occurred. So we had 6 months off again. But it did give me the opportunity to focus on Proactive again. So I was able to kind of dive deep into that. And it's been weird to reflect on everything, especially recently, because I went back and started thinking about when I started Proactive. The world was in a little bit of a different place, and my reasons for starting Proactive were quite different. When I started Proactive, I had just started hiking after getting out of addiction, which I discussed in the first episode, and was happy to find a passion in hiking and wanted to share that with people and wanted to somehow pursue that as a new career. That was something that I guess naively, what's the word?
I think that's about
naive.
Correctly, yeah.
A little naivete. But I thought I'd be able to make more money doing it, and I'd be able to replace my income. But obviously I had to go back to work at a certain point. Yeah, it was funny because during COVID, I actually felt like 2020 was the best year of my life for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
I met a lot of people. We were always out. It was interesting because the whole world was in a lull. You know, nobody was really doing anything. I felt like I was doing more than most people. Because now even when I run into people that talk about 2020, they talk about isolation and not having friends around and not having people around and not doing anything and getting out of shape. And I feel like in 2020, I got in the best shape of my life. I met more people than I've ever met. Proactive was taking off because it was pretty much the only thing people could do was come out hiking with us.
I think the main thing is just like, I think the motivations have changed behind Proactive, correct?
The motivations have changed behind Proactive. In 2017, when I started Proactive, it was more about replacing income, changing careers, building something, and just seeing where I could take it. And then over the years, I've been able to build a community, which I'm pretty proud of. But coming out of COVID, I feel like the world has definitely changed. And now in 2023, 5 years later, you know, basically World War III is happening in the background. You know, crime rates are like through the roof. There's a general apathy that I see out there, uncertainty. The government has given up even putting a show on at this point. Like, I feel like they don't even hide the fact that they're here to take our money and to make things slightly more difficult. You know, there's a lack of accountability. People protest for things, but I feel like it doesn't really make a change in any aspects. I do feel like at this point it's more important, and I'm more compelled to push on Proactive as an outlet and as almost a relief from society.
Yeah, this is a lot of the talk I've had with my dad, honestly, because like you said, I empathize with you very, very much because I've been basically right beside you the whole time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's something now that it looks like we could possibly be getting back to work is something I've been exaggerating to not just you, but other constituents of ours in the same predicament. They should not. They've had time to like focus on like what does mean something to them or what could possibly mean something to them, and they should not like falter back now that they, can get back to making a living. But making a living is also very important, arguably more important.
It's such a fine balance because I feel like every time that you have free time to focus on something that is a passion, you quickly start running out of money. And that becomes, unfortunately, like the main thought in your head is I need to make money. I need to make money. I need to make a living.
Yeah. And like some people would, I mean, like it depends on what you want. You know what I mean? Because I've said it many times that I wish I had the balls to be a starving artist. You know what I mean? Because like those people understand, or like granted, not the stupid ones. They understand that like, yeah, it's going to be tough, but just like in the pursuit of art, whether it like comes to something or doesn't, like it's almost about that personal fulfillment. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So like I've always said artists are selfish in a way because of that, but I mean, selfish not as in like taking food or money away from other people, but just like focusing on them, which again is arguably not selfish, but it's everybody has their proactive. You know what I mean? Like I have my version of proactive that I want to get with, but I mean the true and like it's easy to look back over these past 6 months and be like, oh man, I wish I would have spent it better or doing other things, but I think for what it is, it's definitely in Proactive's case, it was definitely a benefit for sure.
Oh, it definitely was. Definitely was, but that worry always comes back. Once you start getting back into work full time and making a living again, it has been easy in the past to sometimes fall back on the progress you're making with the personal projects. And that's what I'm worried about. But that's what I'm also trying to make it a point not to do.
Yeah.
I want to keep pushing on Proactive. I got to find that balance is what it's all about, really, Especially with the way of the world nowadays. I mean, I did start, like, one of the main points of Proactive is to make use of the time you have on this earth the way you want to. And like personal fulfillment, like you were talking about, fulfill yourself personally. And I guess with the uncertainty in the world right now, it just feels more important to carve out your own thing because you can't really rely on anything else, I feel like. Especially, we were kind of riding high for a while there.
A little bit. Like, we got almost, I mean, yeah, the uncertainty to it at a certain point, like, no matter how hard you try, you kind of can't focus on it. You just kind of have to focus on what's in front of you. And I kind of have a hard time doing that, definitely. Like, my nothing pisses me off more than someone saying, like, oh, well, if you can't control it, you shouldn't worry about it. It's like, to me, that's just, like, to a lesser degree saying, hey, roll over and take it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, but why wouldn't you, like, just try your damnedest to not do that? But, like, at the end of the day, you really can't do anything, So, like, you're almost forced to focus on what's in front of you. And it just depends on what you put in front of yourself, I guess.
Exactly.
So it's difficult and philosophical and, like, to each his own as well. But, yeah, I agree. It's been a pretty rough time. A rough time, but a slightly enlightening time these past couple months.
It has been. I feel like I've made more progress with, obviously we're doing the podcast. That was something I had set as a goal a year ago.
Not for nothing. It's no small potatoes.
No, really. It's not. This is a true process that we're doing here, And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of every episode we've put out so far. I guess it's hard for me sometimes to imagine, too, that there are a lot of people out there that don't have a personal project on the side.
Yeah, whether that be they don't, like, want one, have one, or, like, aren't able to have one. Because some people, obviously, they only can focus on survival.
Absolutely.
So
I guess in that case, we're pretty fortunate that we even have the ability to do what we do.
Don't get me wrong. All my problems are first world problems.
Oh, yeah.
In and out, you know what I mean? Like, I was saying earlier today, I'm not going to be hungry or homeless. I mean, you never know.
Knock on wood, yeah, for sure.
You never know, but Yeah, for that, that's definitely not any immediate issue of mine. Mine's obviously much more personal problems, and in terms of like, am I gonna fucking be able to feed my children?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
exactly. I guess that's why some people just are forced to focus on just making a living. Mm-hmm. That's
and
all.
see, my thing also through this whole thing is like, I don't know. It's not even like so much a personal thing, but just like in terms of survival, like building your own machine, so to speak, like something that you can just build up and have going that will allow you to survive. So like whether that be proactive or like a thrift shop or whatever the hell I'm trying to do, it's a difficult issue to talk about. But I mean, we're definitely on the positive end. Like I'm certain there are some people in our situation who have just rolled over and taken it and just like accepted the worst for what it is and just like have left the industry completely or just were forced to start like go back to school or something.
Yep.
I know people who've done that or just go back to something they hate or even like leave the city. I'm certain there have been people who I do know people who have had to leave the city because like there's just no work, so there's no point. So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's at the end of the day, it's really what makes you happy.
And that's the thing, enjoying the process too.
Yeah,
Because
that's
I've
important.
clearly not made a lot of money working on Proactive, but I at a certain point realized that even if I'm not making any money from it, the process is what I enjoy the most. Mm-hmm. The whole situation is what I want to be in. Proactive was created to be a narrative story of somebody starting something, attracting other people, and then following that group of people through the trials and tribulations of life and the challenges of each and every hike that we do. So that's where I feel like we are different. It is funny though, because a lot of people too that have been out of work, instead of how we look at it like free time to use, tangible time to make use of. And some people have just kind of said, "Oh, I haven't had nothing to do for the last 6 months," and that's just something I can't relate to at all.
Yeah, I mean, not to say I haven't had anything to do. My problem is like almost not looking for it. Like last night, for instance, and this happens to everybody. It's a horrible habit and embarrassing to admit. But last night, I remember just I watched a movie. I can't remember at what time, and then I just go in my room and I'm on my phone and I see the time and it's 9:30, and then a second flies by and I look at my phone again and it's 11:30 and I'm still on Instagram. You know what I mean? And it's just like obviously, I don't want to say obviously like getting in shape is a goal of mine, but I just have so many. I catch myself all the time being like I could literally be doing anything else and it'd be more productive, whether that be just being on Instagram or being up some places where, I'm just kind of wasting my time,
Yeah.
Yeah, but being optimistic, it seems that we are possibly on the tail end of it and hopefully we'll be able to make some money soon.
Yes.
But again, you can't lose sight of the big picture, which I think is a big thing.
What's the outcome of getting 14,000 or 20,000 views on a meaningless video? Will you look back on that in 20 years and say that you had a big impression on somebody's life from that video that they hardly paid attention to and hit the like button on? Because I'm guilty of that too. I scroll through and I like a bunch of different things. I don't always really pay any attention to what they're saying or what they're doing. I think everybody's a little guilty of that.
Like you were talking about COVID and like looking back, I'm kind of conflicted on it because like it was a good time, but it also was a really rough time as well. And like looking back on it, I don't think there's a single person out there who would be like, yeah, I think COVID was worth it because like, I think just like the unspoken effects of COVID as well, like a solid year of just lost time, though nobody was doing anything. I can't think of anybody who wouldn't kill to get a year of their life back. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
And it's just the same thing with the strikes because like not only has that just like that's been difficult, especially for me because like I want to continue down the film and television industry, not just what we do, is just build sets and whatnot, which is a fine job. It's just not my career choice that I want to go down. But because of the strikes, it's made me question like where the industry is going to be in 5 years. And like,
Sure.
it's really been rough, like trying to look and like make those hard career like decisions and like mend my goals to what's going on. But like the thing is, if you don't do that, and like I'm sure how you've been doing with Proactive, if you don't change, then you get left behind to a lesser extent. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
So it's.
Why don't you elaborate on what are your goals?
And see, this has been a benefit of hanging out with you. It's because like you are so clear cut and like you're so clear minded with it. It's made me think like, all right, I need to get more focused on it. What exactly my goals are, because a lot of my goals or career goals could possibly be replaced by computers in a certain period of time. But mainly my goals are more working in art and entertainment, like making films and making music and making art and whatnot. And that's kind of like, by its own nature, very amalgamous, you know, or like anamorphic. Am I using that word correctly?
I think so, yeah.
Like just a big blob of weirdness. It's obviously not a 9 to 5, but it's just, but also weighing all these uncertainties, AI, the economy, war. I mean, not a good thing I do, but like something I think about when I think about the times, it's like, at least I'm not around during 1940. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm not around during when was Vietnam? 60.
The 60s and 70s,
Yeah. I'm not around during them. But if I were, war would still be happening and artists would still be making art. You know what I mean? Like, I forget how, like, everything was still going during all those shitty times. And I don't know. Sometimes I like to give humanity the benefit of the doubt with like, you know, we'll still figure our way. It's a shitty time for sure, but we'll still figure our way out of it.
I remain optimistic, even with all the things that are going on right now. Like
and not to say I'm optimistic or pessimistic. It's just like I kind of have no choice but to head forward. So it's not really more of a positive or negative thing. It's like it's going to happen anyways. So.
I guess it's all just about how you put yourself out there amidst all of that, you know?
And yeah.
I don't want to be a social media influencer. That's not the goal. The goal is to attract extraordinary people to join me in being proactive. And by being proactive, I don't just mean by being a hiker. I want people to be proactive in every element of their life. That means not staying in your shitty job. That means, chasing your dreams. Hiking is the instrument of proactive.
And the thing is like the world is super big, and it's good to have a pulse on what's happening in the current climate of it. And it's also kind of hard to keep up with the entire planet. But like at the end of the day, it is about you and your happiness, truly.
I did, in 2020, I did decide that too. And I think I went tunnel vision in a good way. You know, some people would say like tunnel vision's a bad thing, but I kind of started to block out all the news and everything that was going on at that time to focus on myself and my group, you know, and I felt like that's a good thing. I feel like it's been a little harder lately, probably because we've not been working full time. So I've had more time to kind of observe the world as it is.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I'm not so happy with the state of the world right now. Yeah, I've kind of made that clear in certain ways without getting too deep into it. I just do feel like society as a whole is not as solid as it once was.
Arguably.
Why do you say that?
I mean, like I said, it's not, we're not in Vietnam. We're not, World War III could be on the, I don't know. In my mind, I think whereas a lot of people see apathy, I see a lot more like, I don't want to say everybody's smart, but I feel like most people could agree. It's a very loud minority, I guess. Like, I feel like most people are level-headed enough to be like, that's just not right, you know what I mean? And like, especially with how shitty things are getting nowadays, a lot more people are waking up to how shitty it is, and like, obviously they may not know the best way to go about changing it or what we need, but it is getting people involved. I remember 2020, as a matter of fact. 2016 was my first election, and that was a pretty bonkers time. The whole 20 teens was a trip, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I would ask people going forward, like about like, hey, has politics always been like this? And like some people would be like, nah, well, some people would be like, yeah, it's always been like this, and other people would be like, no, it's never been like this heated, this extremist type of thing. And I don't know, it's hard to gauge all that, just especially with my just being 25. I'm willing to admit that there is a lot that I don't know. Like that's why I stay out of certain political issues as well, is because like it makes no sense to make a comment on what something you don't have the full picture on, truly.
That makes sense.
So it's it's a mad world out there.
It is a mad world out there. Again, which is why I feel more compelled lately to make sure I continue like pushing proactive and trying to continue to carve out my own niche, my own part of the world for myself. I keep saying that.
Yeah.
Just because I'm personally dissatisfied with what I see out there right now, politically, geopolitically, societally.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, but again, a lot of those things you can't change. Like
I can't.
Yeah. I guess the point really just comes back to it's at the end of the day, it is your life. And you should live it as selfishly as you can.
I agree. And that's definitely where my mind shifted back in like 2020.
Yeah. See, and I'm like I said, it's hanging out with you all this time, and it's being around your stick-to-itiveness. It has kind of motivated me. It's given me the slight motivation, because I'm still working on, my own like personal and professional goals as well. And obviously, like I just said, last night is an instance where I'm catching myself falling short, but I'm getting there. That's all you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. It took me a while to realize, maybe not realize, it took me a while to get into the habit of like making a to-do list, especially as far as proactive goes, to try to get that really going. And I tend to find myself a lot of the days getting up in the morning, getting a workout done, and starting to get to that to-do list. I never really finish a to-do list. It always rolls over. But there have been many nights where I've worked myself to exhaustion and just fallen asleep after finishing, a dozen little bits and trying to move on to the next day, which is why when we're going back to work, I'm trying to make sure I can kind of keep that up.
Yeah, it's...
that's what worries me, I guess. That's what's on my mind lately, is keeping it going. Because especially now, I've got a couple of things, like this podcast, for instance, and the proactive challenge that I do see like a lot of potential in, and I don't want to lose that momentum. I just don't want to lose the momentum. And especially when in the background, like I said, there's all these other worldly factors that are, not interfering, but they're on my mind. And then the proliferation of AI is something that concerns me as a creator, because I consider proactive art too.
100%.
It's an art project. It's a big art project. And with the proliferation of AI and people being able to use AI to do a lot of the things that I do take pride in doing, it kind of puts you in a weird headspace sometimes. But I have to keep reassuring myself that the human spirit won't completely die because of all these factors.
Yeah.
The proactive at the end of the day is about like human achievement and human spirit and using your time on this earth wisely and to your liking, to your fulfillment. And so there's just a lot of things that I feel like are that could interfere with that. And that's what's been on my mind lately. And I guess it's because we've been out of work that I guess I've had a little more time to think it over.
Well, I mean, in regards to you are, I guess, if there is an end, I would say you're towards the more, obviously way closer to the middle than I am, because I have great ideas in my head, what I would call great ideas, but I have trouble like manifesting them. So like, but that's the biggest thing I've also come to learn as well, is that like ideas are like, what can you get from theory alone? You know what I mean? Like if you were still going around like, oh yeah, I have this hiking podcast and I have this big group that we go on hikes with, and someone's like, oh, that sounds interesting, tell me more about it. And you're just like, oh, well, like, I'm still working on getting a space. I'm DMing people on Instagram to come on hikes with us, and like, trying to get more like, versus like oh, I have a hiking podcast. Oh, tell me more about it. Here, I'll send you an episode, and I'll send you the list of scheduled hikes I have for this month. You know what I mean?
Yep,
so like, you're definitely, and like, I remember I said this in a the little talking head video that I did in here was like, you get your title by just doing it. You don't wait for the award in the mail. Like, you just do it, and that's what you are. So like, you're by all means, like on paper, proactive is what it is. Like depending on what your goals were to achieve. You started a podcast. You do have a solid group together. You have participating members of your social group. So, I mean, so far it definitely seems like a success. Even though, granted, you're not making 100% of your income off of it, but like it is doing. The machine is working for sure.
The machine is working. I mean, I take pride. I take a lot of pride in the fact that when I say that I want to do something, or an idea comes up and I say, let's do that, that we do that. That I at least try. I mean, we discussed that on the podcast with Mel, is that even the craziest ideas, I at least try. And I've come to terms recently with, even if Proactive never becomes a financial success or you know, a replacement for any other type of income, the process is what I've really kind of taken a hold of and really enjoy doing.
Yeah, I mean, because if you enjoy the process doing this, you'll enjoy the process of building whatever your next venture may be.
Yeah, absolutely. And Proactive is so kind of open-ended that I could do so much with it. I've thought of it more lately, especially with like other projects that are part of Proactive, like other realms, the short stories and the short films I want to make and all that. You know, I see like the production company aspect of it, along with the hiking. I've even started to think of it as like a farm league for bigger races and like other athletes.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
we've had people come out and then advance on to what they've been doing.
Yeah, I can't imagine like scheduling or coordinating like a triathlon would be like out of the realm for you at all.
That's what, you know,
or things like that. You know, what
absolutely. I mean? You know, over time we've expanded from what we started doing. Yeah, sometimes I think back, I'm like, when we started, I've said this before, I had to like pull friends and family out to come on the first couple of hikes with us. And now everybody that comes on the hikes with me, I've basically met through social media or through marketing, really. There are people I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty amazing.
So it's definitely working out. Obviously you wouldn't call it a failure either, but it's definitely working.
No, definitely not. It's just something that I have to make a point of continuing on working on while we get back to work.
Yeah, I've stressed that enough to you already.
Absolutely.
So that's something I need to work on kind of every day, all the time. Even if we do go back to work, I still want to. Yeah, that's a sticky issue. Let's not get into that.
Yeah, no, the questions of when and how that'll happen.
Yeah.
I guess that's that's what's been going on in my head, though.
Yeah.
But again, I remain delusionally optimistic, as I like to say, because I do feel like good will come out of all of this. And the world can burn, but it doesn't mean that I have to.
Yeah. And besides, after I've seen burned fields where they just grow right back.
They grow right back, even nicer than they were before.
Yeah, humanity's like weeds, man. We'll be back.
Absolutely.
So.
When people give me advice on how to get ahead on social media, it's usually, and I understand where they're coming from, they're usually telling me to follow the lead of somebody else and to use the song that somebody else used, or use the graphic that somebody else used, or the joke or the sticker or the whatever. But I have a really hard time sort of falling in line like that. I do like a little grit. I like things being based more in reality. Anyway, like I said, I probably could have done that better. I probably could have articulated this a little bit better. But those are some of the thoughts that have been going through my mind over the last 6 months. And as I said, I intend on carrying on, pushing on Proactive, and continuing to grow it. Thanks for listening. That's Jarod.
I was happy to be on the podcast for the first time, even though I've been here for all of them.
You have been here for all of them, and you will definitely, this is not going to be the last one.
Yeah, I'm slowly but surely breaking out of my cocoon.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
I'm Joe. You can find us at Proactive AHW on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube. And that's it.
Woohoo!
Traffic is a very good representation of how the world is right now. Because you have about 25% of the people in the lane they want to be in, And you have another 50% or so of people who seem like they don't know what they're doing. And you have another quarter of the people who are blasting through, endangering others, making it difficult for the majority.